It's a fresh edition of Weather for Weather Geeks here on the final day of July 2018, heading into August on an unsettled note across the Mahoning and Shenango valleys. And let's dive right into it. We've got a lot to talk about this evening. First of all, look at some rain gauge numbers over the last 24 hours. Now, we had a couple of surprises over the last 24 hours. There was a band of thunderstorms that developed late last evening around 11:30 that kind of parked over Salem to Canfield, grazing parts of Boardman as well, that kind of sat there for a while and dumped a decent amount of rain. Then we had a period of steady rain that pushed through early this afternoon, which I also was not really expecting when I left to work last night. And even when I did an update this morning, I was not expecting that band of rain to hold together as it moved all the way into northeast Ohio, western PA, but it did, and it rained for a few hours. So these are some actual rain gauge numbers. Ignore the 0 in Canfield. That's not right. But otherwise, all these look pretty legitimate. This is our studio rain gauge, or our station rain gauge up on the roof. So I know this one's good because that's a rain gauge that I maintain. But all of these other numbers look reasonable as well, with the exception of that goose egg showing up in Canfield. All right, so as far as rainfall for the month of July, we finished at the airport. Assuming we don't get anything else this evening, and we probably won't. We finished at 2.23 inches for the month. The tail end of the month definitely wetter than the first half of the month. Look at that stretch from the 7th to the 15th with only a trace during that entire stretch. It was our driest July at the airport since 2007. Now, your backyard may have had quite a bit more or somewhat less than this. We just give you the numbers at the airport, which go into the official record books. All right, as far as our temperatures this month, the coolest weather was at the end of the month. We've had 5 straight cooler than average days to wrap up July, but of course the month as a whole was a warm one. We'll go into the record books as about 2.5 degrees above the average, nowhere near a record or anything like that. And certainly that first week was brutal, from the 1st through the 4th and right into the 5th. That was a tough stretch. And we had another, along with that hot weather, we had another dry weather, I should say. We had another hot stretch during the second week of July. The tail end of the month was a little more tolerable. All right, I put together this graphic and posted it on social media today. I was, kind of coming up with some ideas for future blog posts, and I thought I'd talk a little bit about some climate in a future blog post. So I took the opportunity to come up with this today. I looked at the temperatures each month here in Youngstown, the last 30 years when compared to the previous 30 years. So basically we're looking at 1987 to this year versus 1957 to 1987, 30-year chunks. And each and every month has been warmer in the last 30 years than the previous 30 years. Now, there's quite a variance here, but one thing that really sticks out is the biggest change has been in the winter months, particularly the dead of winter, January and February. Those are the months that have seen the biggest increase in temperatures over the last 30 years. With each subsequent season throughout the calendar year, the warming has become less pronounced. In autumn, really not much of a huge change here at all, but winter is definitely the time of the year in which the changing climate has really had a noticeable impact in our part of the country. We're not alone on that. Winter has seen the most warming across a large chunk of the northern hemisphere over the last 30-odd years or so, centered over the Arctic, but a good chunk of the northern hemisphere, it's winter time that the changing climate has been most pronounced. So hope you'll find that interesting, and I'll put together a more detailed blog on our changing numbers here in our part of the world coming up here soon on my weather blog, ericwfmj.com. All right, August forecast as we turn the calendar over into a new month. I think it's going to be another warmer than average month. This is a look at the Climate Prediction Center's forecast, and I didn't come up with a graphic of my own because I like what they have. The only thing I might add is not in our viewing area, but out in here, there might be an area of cooler than average, but I like the overall idea here that the Northeast will probably bake in August. We'll be on the fringes of that, but I still suspect that the odds are pretty decent that we're going to have a warmer than average month, perhaps kind of similar in numbers and in magnitude to what we've had in July. As far as rainfall goes, this is a little bit interesting. I agree with this idea that odds favor a somewhat wetter than average month, which would be a change compared to July. July's been relatively warm, relatively dry. August could have similar temperatures, but with more precipitation. Do I think it's a super wet month? I doubt it, but probably wetter on average than the month of July was. So that's a look ahead into the month of August. And, the first half of August Our confidence is real high of a pretty warm pattern. Our confidence gets lower as we go into weeks 3 and 4. Right now, some of the modeling suggests that weeks 3 and 4 will not be as warm compared to the average, but still not real confident of that at this point. High confidence the next couple weeks, though, that a hot pattern is going to set up across a lot of the country east of the Rockies as that trough lifts out. A ridge centers itself over the Rockies and Plain states, while we won't be directly under the ridge, and so we won't be in the area with the highest departures from average. We'll still be on the fringes of that big ridge, and that means it looks pretty toasty. Boy, it's going to be a tough month in places such as Dallas, Oklahoma City, Kansas City, Denver. Places like that could have a real tough first half of the month. For us, it's just going to be very, very warm to hot at times for at least 7 to 10 days, if not 2 weeks or so. Back here in the short term, our water vapor imagery this evening showing our pronounced trough and upper low, moving very slowly, meandering across the Mississippi Valley and funneling in the moisture. On the east side of troughs of low pressure, the air rises. You get what you call divergence in the upper levels of the atmosphere, where the air parcels are going in separate directions. That divergence leads to convergence at the ground level or the lower levels of the atmosphere, and then that air rises to replace the air that's evacuating out the top of the air column. That's what happens on the east side of troughs of low pressure, and sure enough, where you get all that rising air and moisture, we got a lot of rain and a lot of moisture to contend with across the eastern third of the country, from the Gulf of Mexico right up through parts of the mid-Atlantic states, and closer to the center of our upper low, we've got these scattered showers from western Ohio back through the Mississippi Valley. We're kind of in a dry slot right now. We should be that way for most of the overnight, and again, plentiful moisture. Some of these higher dew points will come in here tomorrow. I think our dew points, while they're in the upper 60s tonight, they're probably going to be like that a lot of the day tomorrow as well. As far as rain tomorrow goes, I doubt we're going to have a period of steady rain like we had for a couple of hours, like we had today. I doubt we'll have that tomorrow. I was wrong today, but reasonable amount of confidence that we won't see a repeat of that tomorrow. What we probably will see is more hit or miss type of activity, midday and afternoon for the first day of August tomorrow. This front kind of washes out as it comes east. So hour by hour rain chances tomorrow. I don't have them getting above 40% at any point. Highest odds probably in the afternoon. So we'll see how tomorrow plays out. Hopefully there's no surprises. This front washes out to our east and takes a lot of the higher rain chances with it out into central and eastern PA. That being said, I can't rule out a passing renegade shower or a storm Thursday and again on Friday, but I think we're going to be in for sunnier and warmer days coming up as we head towards the weekend. Dew point trends, elevated, no doubt, as we go through the end of the week and into the upcoming weekend. It's going to be steamy. I've got to 89 in the forecast for Sunday, Monday, and again on Tuesday. So great pool weather coming up. Summer is far, far from over. Hopefully we'll get all of this high heat out of the way before school kicks back in. There's a few things more miserable than when the kids have to head off to school and it's really, really hot outside. Most schools have air conditioning these days, but some don't. And hopefully we'll get all this heat out of the way before the start of school coming up, believe it or not, in just a couple or a few weeks. All right, that's it for tonight's weather for Weather Geeks. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you back here for the first day of August on Wednesday.